Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. 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 Promoter 101.
This is Eddie Clemens from United Talent Agency. I'm here on Promoter 101.
It's time once again for the Promoter 101 podcast. This week, we continue with episode 143. The London sessions continue here. We've got a featured interview later on the podcast with DHP Family's Anton Lockwood.
I kind of like how they call it family instead of like DHP Productions. It's like, hey, you work here, you're part of the family. I got a good vibe to it, man.
I kind of like it too.
Take your shoes off and relax.
Yep.
Bring the dog to the office. It's cool because we're family.
We're the cool office. That's what we do.
Right, except they're cool, so they would never say they're cool.
They wouldn't say that we're cool.
Plus, a very special feature with Locke and Company's Rye. Yeah. Plus, a special feature with Locke and Company talking about their brand new talking about their brand new rye that has just come out. Owen Locke is here to talk us through exactly how you distill and how that process and everything works and give us some tips about how to drink your booze correctly. For a lot of our, listeners, I think there's a lot of alcoholic snobs out there. No, alcoholic enthusiasts. Let's go with enthusiasts, not alcoholics. Yes. Alcoholic enthusiasts. Alcohol enthusiasts. What the fuck? It's alcohol enthusiasts. There we go. Connor, make that work. That'll be good.
That's pretty good. There might be some booze in the menu. We're not quite sure. It's going to be a great day. Get you served up just right on this episode of Promoter 101.
I like that. Kind of like Goodfellas. Just right. And we got it just right.
Hey, this is Matt Berenger from the Pabst Theater Group here on Promoter 101.
Have you missed any of our past Promoter 101 episodes? Well, don't worry. We got your back. This week, we'll have a special reissue of episode 86, which you can find at promoter101.net on your computer or smartphone devices.
That episode is a doozy. It features Mills Entertainment's Michael Mills explaining life as a promoter, an agent, a manager, and a producer.
I really like Mike Mills.
He's good people. What else we have in the podcast?
Live Nation Concert Dubai's Zed Makbul chats with us on working for the biggest promoter in the world and all of the business they're doing in the United Arab Emirates.
United Emirate. Wait,
United Arab.
God damn it!
I got it. Hold on. All the business they're doing in Dubai and the UAE.
There you go. And we wrapped up that podcast with a great round of 3 questions from Outer Loop Management's Mike Mowry.
We haven't done 3 questions in a while.
It's been a minute.
If you have any interest in doing 3 questions with us, send us a note. We'll make that happen because I actually really enjoy 3 questions. It's always fun to see the questions that our listeners come up with. And hey, feel free to drop us a review or a subscription or a note or, or don't. Fuck us. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine.
Patty Ann Tarleton. I'm overseeing Canada for Ticketmaster today, and I'm on Promoter 101.
News of the week.
It is that special time of the week where Luke breaks down all of what happened in the industry and gives it to you in child-sized bite-like portions. So you don't have to, read the whole article. Luke did it for you.
Madness in the desert as festival goers took to Indio, California for the first weekend of Coachella 2019, and a special surprise as fans were treated to a long-awaited reunion of, most of NSYNC. JC Chazé, Lance Bass, Chris Kirkpatrick, and Joey Fatone joined Ariana Grande on stage for their hit Tearing Up My Heart. And if you missed the party in the Coachella Valley this past weekend, don't worry, it's happening again. You can also catch up on the affairs of the 2018 rendition of the Party in the Desert as Beyoncé released a documentary following her very memorable performance from last year's festival and a Netflix documentary called Homecoming. Beyoncé releasing a documentary on Netflix about her performance from Coachella on the weekend of Coachella. Pretty ice cold, but what are you going to expect? Bezos at it again. Amazon is reportedly planning the launch of its ad-supported music service as soon as this week. Billboard published an article last Friday citing sources familiar with the product saying that the free music service was all set and licensed by all the major labels, although the new service would feature limited catalog. Prime Music is currently included in part of Amazon Prime's subscription service at $119 per year, but Amazon also offers Amazon Music Unlimited for $9.99 a month or $7.99 to its Prime members. The launch will be closely watched as the conversation in streaming pivots to smart speakers, as the Amazon Echo has a 70% market share of all smart speakers installed in the U.S., and Prime membership in the U.S. exceeds 101 million as of the top of the year. Finally, two big congrats are in order. First, to Paradigm's Marty Diamond, who was named the global head of music for the agency, leading the agency's representation of its many music clients. Diamond's personal roster is, of course, home to some of music business' biggest names, including Ed Sheeran, Coldplay, Janelle Monáe, Sarah Bareilles, Sia, Lorde, and more. Diamond succeeds previous head of music Chip Hooper, who died in 2016. And a final congrats are in order to Ryan Press, who this week earns the promotion at Warner Chappell to president of A&R in the U.S. Press joined Warner Chappell in 2009 and has worked with some of the biggest songwriters, producers, and artists in the game, like Rihanna, DJ Khaled, Wiz Khalifa, Meek Mill, Lil Wayne, Ross Golan, Aloe Black, and so many more. Press will continue to be based at the LA headquarters and reportedly reports to Warner Chappell co-chairman Guy Moot and co-chairman and COO Corey Ann Marshall. That'll do it for the news of the week.
Hi, it's Kim Badir with City of Tacoma Venues and Events, appearing on Promoter 101. Glad to represent all Canadians everywhere, particularly those who have landed in the U.S. of A.
This next segment of the podcast, Dan, I would call it music business adjacent, because there's not actually music being discussed in it, but there is something that most people in the music business enjoy doing, which is drinking. So we're joined by Locke & Company's Owen Locke here to talk about the special distillation he's been doing on a brand new rye and the best way to drink it.
You know, I think the music business doesn't work completely well without a drink in your hand. I think it is not only adjacent, it's pretty much right in the palm of your hand. It just helps the lubrication of the industry work a little.
That it does.
Owen's a friend, and he has a unique job where he makes his own whiskey and rye, and we're going to get to experiment Locke Company Aspen Aged Rye. Welcome to the podcast, dude.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, good to be here. Some good time to come taste some rye whiskey right in springtime and have a lot of fun.
So normally we have a rule in the podcast that we don't drink while we do the podcast because it creates special questions that make people uncomfortable in post. But we are going to drink a little bit during this segment.
We're just going to taste. That's right.
It's a tasting. That's right. It wouldn't be right to talk about the product without sampling it. Let's first talk about how you found this unique job, because I think most of my listeners are fans of the alcoholic beverages to begin with, but well-crafted ones, all the more so.
Well, appreciate that. It's kind of been like a lifetime long hobby of mine, if you will. So as the kid growing up in Denver, Colorado during like the craft beer boom, right? So grew up in around 95, figured out they'd sell you the stuff to make beer. And that was very attractive to me at that age.
Isn't it just cheaper to buy the beer?
It was, but I figured out it was a little more fun. And my folks were like, cool science. I'm sure that beer tastes great. They let me brew beer at home starting when I was like 15.
Oh, wow. How long did it take you to get good at it? Because I imagine the first couple batches were horrible.
The first couple batches were horrible. It took a while, and you kind of start with like the basic beer kits and then go to all grain, some things like that. So you can kind of ramp up and make it a little less challenging. And then
get nerdy and sciencey as you like understand.
Exactly. You gotta work into it. So we did that for sure. And, a couple of years into it, making some fun stuff and then making some more fun stuff up at CU Boulder. As you can imagine, as a college kid, making beer was a good time for sure up in CU, causing trouble. And then took distilling classes around Denver. So about 9 years ago, started taking distilling classes. And when I was in grad school, worked with my buddy and now my current business partner, Rick Talley. We worked for Jim Beam. So we kind of learned the nuances between like all their high-end whiskeys. And we were taking these distilling classes, bought a still, moved it into the garage. So it's like a 6-foot, 23-gallon still. It's like a piece of Americana artwork. It's beautiful. Definitely keeps me off the streets and a good hobby to have.
Okay, so your parents let you start making beer at 15 and that led to a job at Jim Beam.
Correct.
I can hear some people like on the other side thinking that was a really bad decision by your parents. And I want to say, aha.
Yes, they definitely foster, like, there was all these beer at home, beer things in the 90s, and I was always interested in it. My dad would take me around. He wasn't as much interested, but kind of fostered, I guess he's interested in it. It always kind of stuck with me. Growing up, I wanted, like, Owen's organic beer was something that I had done in grad school, wrote a business plan for, but I was kind of learning all these things from Jim Beam. And essentially, you have to make good beer to make good whiskey. You have to be good at fermenting. You have to have all your tables set up. You have to really practice that. And then you're essentially boiling that beer through your still to get a spirit out. And then to make whiskey, you put that on some wood, and there's some other restrictions as well. But not to bore you too much, essentially started making my own beer when I was really young, bought that still, started playing in the garage, took a mason jar rye whiskey about 8 years ago up to Fairplay, Colorado. Family's got like 28, 30 acres off of Weston Pass. Drinking by the fire, having a good time through a chunk of charred aspen wood. There's a lot of aspen up there, so the firewood's always aspen. Just having fun. Threw that in a mason jar full of rye. Left that on a southern-facing windowsill. Hot days, cool nights, came back in the spring, was like, that tastes pretty good. Really glad we were drinking by the fire. Moral of the story, drink by the fire.
But just experimenting.
Just having fun and experimenting and just, not taking it too seriously, but getting after it. When we found out the aspen tasted good, that's when we started playing with different ways to cut the wood. And that was kind of like the light bulb moment for us, was instead of cutting the wood like how you'd make a barrel, like a stave, like you'd be chopping wood, we cut it horizontally so you can see the rings. So we get a lot more surface area, a lot more flavor, just kind of cutting the wood differently. So that was kind of like the light bulb moment for us, is a little something different. And then we cure that wood, char it up, and add it to the whiskey. So it gives it just a really unique flavor because of the local aspen wood.
It's fascinating. The whole process behind creating what is going to be the final taste, right? Because it's not done until you say it's done, right? So you guys are crafting and crafting and crafting until you're like, this is good enough to sell, and literally put your name on it.
Absolutely. And I think that was over the 9 years, such a great thing for us. We started kind of creating a community. People like year 1 or 2, when I was running the whiskey still out of the garage, were like, yes, that tastes great, Owen, good for you. And they're kind of grimacing in the corner. But by year like 4 or 5, they're like, that's really good. Can I buy some for Christmas? So kind of doing that sort of thing, having a lot of fun, sharing that, getting a lot of feedback from my friends. And for Locke & Co., it's like Locke & Company, like welcome to our home. Locke & Community, trying to create a lot of like interaction and inclusiveness. So we kind of started that way, getting a lot of feedback, a lot of fun stuff that way. So it's really led to being kind of where we are today, getting a lot of friends involved and doing a lot of kind of community outreach things too.
Now, is Bob Weir involved?
Not yet. I wish.
Because just based on the name, I thought maybe there'd be a throwback to the dead there.
It could happen. Maybe one day.
Little John Mayer action. This is your baby. You've blended this to the point where you put your name on it. You guys have released it to the market now.
Yep.
It's available mostly in Colorado?
Just in Colorado.
Okay. With that, what goes into going, okay, this is done. This is it. This is the recipe. This is how long we want to age it. This is exactly what we're looking for. I'm putting my name on it, and I'm ready to sell this to the public.
A lot goes into that, the product, kind of the juice side of things is, what does it taste like? What are we trying to go for here? What's kind of the demographic, the need out there? And so we were looking at rye whiskey. I'm a rye whiskey guy. I wanted to make something I wanted to drink. So that was very important to me. And rye whiskey is just such a growing category out there. There's not as much competition as with bourbons. So it was a great category for us to enter, something I wanted to drink, and the aspen wood made it really unique. However, with whiskey, there's so much time in aging, right? So it's 2 years in the barrel, 8 months with the aspen. Does it turn out great? So part of that is just taking a risk and going out there. You try to do little like mason jar test samples, try to age things. And that's what's really innovative in the industry right now is, just because it says 18 years, 12 years, does that mean it's good? Could you age it differently? Very similar to craft beer, right? So it used to be like domestic lagers, and then it exploded to any kind of beer that you could ever imagine. And so aging whiskey, the innovation is kind of going to be in that wood. You're going to see that all over the places. Aged with some sort of filter, aged in this, ocean rocking ship, aged with aspen, all these different things. And that's really what's going to kind of be the new trend, is different ways to age whiskey going forward. But it's just a leap of faith, because you're like, I hope this works out in 3 years.
Right, because you kind of put your whole life into this.
Absolutely. Essentially, we had like $500,000 worth of really good rye whiskey that we added aspen to. And we looked at each other and go, did we just ruin $500,000 worth of whiskey? And the answer was no, thankfully. But yes, that was a day we both had to look in the mirror really hard.
And now you know what it's like to promote a concert.
Exactly. You're like, is this going to happen? Is this going to work?
So you have probably tried mixing it with everything in the world.
This is true.
What's your favorite cocktails that you've created?
We do like to say there's no wrong way to taste whiskeys.
I got to say, Street, it's pretty damn good. I'm enjoying this.
Thank you. Get that spice of that rye, some really unique aspen, light brown sugar, a little cinnamon, a little herbal grass tone. Anyway, super smooth for 90 proof. I'm not trying to sell you. You're already drinking. So with some of the favorite cocktails, so one of the things that we'll do is we'll bring like a clear carafe with us when we're doing tastings, and at some restaurants and bars, you can find this too, is like a clear carafe that would age or infuse vodka. We'll drop in charred aspen wood, and it's be like a barrel-aged cocktail, but you can actually see it aging. So we do a lot of aspen-aged Manhattans. So it's a lot of fun. The whiskey and the vermouth sit in the carafe. You pour that over ice and then garnish with some bitters. So like the hot tip for your Manhattan right now, this is like the pro tip. Use the perfect Manhattan recipe no matter what Manhattan you're making. 2/3 rye whiskey, 1/3 vermouth, but split that between sweet and dry vermouth. The dry vermouth is going to bring out the pepper notes of your rye and make your beverage overall less sweet. And then use the sweet vermouth and then orange bitters. Orange bitters is awesome. You can find it pretty much everywhere. It's going to connect your vermouth and your whiskey with that little citrus kind of acid. Super nice. That's the trick. Perfect Manhattan.
Pro tip.
Pro tip.
What happens when you stir up the whiskey? How does that affect the smell and open things up? Is it like wine?
It is not like wine. It is not like beer. So this is like another pro tip, I guess, on how to taste whiskey or really any other spirit out there. So when you're swirling your glass, all you're doing is disturbing all the alcohol fumes, and it's going to burn your olfactory senses. So you swirl your glass like beer or wine and shove your nose in it, it's going to burn. You're just not going to be able to smell or taste anything. So what you want to do is you can do that to see the legs and see the color, especially on whiskey or tequila, something like that, some brown spirit. But you want to let it sit for a second. Let it calm down. Let it rest on the table. Then take a sip. We do this thing, it's called the Kentucky Chew, which is kind of fun. So you take a little sip, and I'm smacking that literally around my entire palate. So you can look that up, the Kentucky Chew, but what that does is that gets a little saliva in there, it cuts the alcohol, you're going to be able to taste more, really provide a lot more flavors around your entire palate than just going really quickly like with a shot or something. So when I go to do these tastings, we love to educate people on how to taste a whiskey. Another tip is instead of just smelling through your nose, you kind of part your lips. You can breathe through your nose or your mouth. That's going to cut that vapor again as well. Give you a little bit more time to taste that grain, to smell that spirit.
So you're not just tasting it, smelling the alcohol, you're actually getting what's in there.
You're actually getting the flavors, the nuance, not just like, oh, that's really effective and like 100 proof. No, you want to taste it correctly. So all that fun stuff really helps, and you're not going to burn your nose, and you're going to taste a lot more.
Well, I can't congratulate you enough on what you've accomplished, going out on your own, having the security of Jim Beam behind you and your degree, and like there you have a family, so going off on your own, creating your own company, leaving that security is one hell of a fucking risk, and I'm glad that it's like working out for you, man. I'm so fucking thrilled for you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we're on shelves about 7 months and doing great, better than expected a little bit, and keeping at it and having fun doing it.
So if you're in Colorado, Locke & Co. is at your liquor store and around town at some of the better restaurants. Keep a look on for it and try some rye.
Thank you so much. Yeah, look out for us. Appreciate it.
Owen is a buddy, and I'm thrilled that he joined us here on Promoter 101, and I will probably never stir my drink again now that I've learned what that means.
Rod Essig. I work at CAA. I'm on Promoter 101.
Tweets of the week.
Time for some tweets of the week. Let's take a peek into the mind of Dan Steinberg as he tweets away with hashtag Promoter101. Starting here, when you learn an artist passing your offer by seeing and or hearing the ad breaking for the date at another venue.
It just seems so weak. We took the time to build the offer for you. The least you could do is send an email saying, hey, let the date go before we find out otherwise.
When an act tells you the day of show that they're going to need cash tonight in settlement.
I don't know why this always happens to happen on a Sunday. But when it comes up, it just sucks. Give us a little notice. We'll get you anything you need. Well,
yeah, hard to get cash from a bank on Sunday, you know?
Yeah, it's just hard to get cash anywhere, especially because, in a lot of cases, there's paperwork involved with these things. There's stuff that has to happen. But the good controllers make that work.
Paperwork? What is that?
Paperwork, here, right?
A good sales pitch focuses on the client's needs.
Seems simple, and yet most people pitch just focus more on what they want and not so much what the buyer needs. And you really got to focus on your client's need, whether that's the artist, the manager, the venue, whoever you're trying to make the deal with. You really got to listen and hear what they're looking for. They don't really so much care what you're looking for. It's kind of the job. It's Sales 101, Luke. Listen to what the customer wants and shut up for a minute, huh?
Something like that, Dan.
Never actually tell the manager to shut up, too. We've learned that in real time just now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll pay for that later. Anyway.
That will just about do it for some tweets of the week. Make sure you follow Dan on Twitter. He is at The Jew.
Hey, this is John Phillips with Silverback Music, and you're on Promoter 101.
In our featured interview this week, we're continuing on with the London sessions, joined now by DHP Family's Anton Lockwood.
Hanging out with Anton Lockwood from DHP Family.
Hello.
welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You asked if you could swear, so I'd like to ask you to swear right off the bat.
Fucking A. Actually, painted on the wall in our office in Nottingham is a huge mural which says the motto of the company, which is have a fucking great time.
Love it. 1.5 million tickets sold in 2018. You guys are doing business over here in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, quite a lot of those, to be fair, are down to that ginger fella, Ed Sheeran, who we co-promote, and there was a lot of stadiums. That's definitely helped, but we've got venues and loads of other tours and
Did
stuff
you do that
going
with
on as well.
Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We like those guys. He's turning into quite an industry himself, Mr. Sheeran.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things has been around ticketing. You know, I think we, along with Kilimanjaro through the Ed Sheeran shows, I think we've led the way in fighting via go-go, basically. I think that is having quite an impact across the industry. So that's something we're particularly pleased with what we've done.
So you're not a fan of scalpers?
No. I mean, the ticket, we set the ticket prices based on where the seat is, what we want for the artist. And, if the artist decides they want a high ticket price, that's up to them. But that money shouldn't just go to some random people, particularly some more unsavory ones involved in it.
Right. There shouldn't be a secondary marketing, somebody buying futures.
Yeah, that's right.
Squatting on the good seats.
Yeah, and it just skews the market. It makes it very difficult for genuine fans. We had so many people ringing up on the Ed Sheeran shows going, it's somebody's grandma or granddad who bought their little Jimmy to Ed Sheeran tickets at £400 each, and they're going, what do we do? It's really sad.
Your philosophy in the business is a little different than most, and it's really refreshing. And transparency and fairness inspire everything we do.
Yeah. I mean, we've grown out of being a single venue in Nottingham, Rock City, and we've grown the venues. We've grown the promoting. I mean, I guess the name is a bit of a reflection. A few years ago, we were called DHP Group, and we were just like, is that? That sounds like we deliver parcels, that's crap. So we tried to come up with a new name altogether, and at the same time we won a few awards, and we were kind of, all right, DHP, people kind of know it now, and can we get rid of it? So in the end, we ended up adding in family.
A little warmer, friendlier feel, yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk to each other all year and then argue at Christmas. That's how DHP family goes. But no, the idea is we work together. Some of the other companies in the industry said that your greatest competitor is the guy sat next to you, and we try and not work like that. We try and work together. We try and be fair and have fun doing it and develop artists fairly and have long-term meaningful relationships with our artists. We don't see them as, dollar bills. We're music fans and we're fans of the artists we work with, and we try and develop them that way rather than just try and take every last piece out of them. Sometimes that happens in the industry.
Well, your philosophy is amazing. Our job is to put the artist and fans first. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. And from a business point of view, it works. Our venues are a good example of that. We'd have a number of venues. You could call it a chain. Everyone has its own identity. Everyone has its own style, I guess. But what we do, we don't charge restoration levies. We have good drinks at fair prices. Nothing's ever perfect, but we spend a lot of time on security and making sure that people come and watch a show and have a fucking great time, like it says on the wall in our office. And that is reflected in that people actually go, oh, I went to a concert. I had a great time. I had some nice beers. Security were really friendly. I felt safe. I felt looked after. So I'm going to come back. And, simple as that. If you treat people and artists well, then they come back. And it's good for business as well as being just a good thing to do.
And business seems to be working for you. You promoted 1,380 shows in 2018, and that was up 10%. That's a hell of a crease from 2017.
Sure.
Well fucking done, man.
Yeah. Well, we keep growing. That's also part of our philosophy. See, Ed Sheeran was a big step, but we don't just try and buy in stuff and just grow for the sake of growing. We are an independent company. We don't have shareholders to please. We don't have to kind of announce 5 new things to make the stock price go up. We're not like that.
But you basically did 140 additional shows in 18. Ed Sheeran didn't play 140 shows.
Which he had done. He probably could have done.
He probably could have. And that was a lot. He was rolling a lot of multiple extra stadium dates, right? So you guys were looking at 10, 12.
I think was it 14?
14 stadium shows?
Something like
but some of those were like 3 or 4 nights, right? You guys rolled multiple.
4 nights at Wembley Stadium.
Jesus Christ.
I believe we sold more tickets in Wales than anyone else ever.
The guy is basically the Beatles at this point. That's insane.
Yeah. But, we do a lot of other shows because we own venues. So we have the Garage and the upstairs there, Thousand Island, Oslo in London, also Borderline in London, Rock City, as I mentioned, in Nottingham, Thekla in Bristol, a couple other places in Nottingham. We also program those venues and we use those venues are a way for artists to grow. So someone can come and play our smallest venue in London and work their way up. So I've just had an artist, sort of blues artist called Chris Barras, just did exactly that. He played the smallest room at Thousand Island. He played Borderline. Then he came back to main room at Garage and packed it out. And that's great to develop an artist. And that's where we do a lot of shows, because we are developing artists through our venues as well as our external promoting. And we try and have that, sounds like a horrible corporate word, that synergy between those things.
I like the agents of chaos. Can you tell me about that? What that means?
Agents of change.
I'm sorry. Yes, I got that wrong.
That's a very specific thing to do with venues. I think it's fairly well documented that there's pressure on small live music venues. And the absolutely typical thing that happens, and it happened to us with Rock City, is you build your venue, you're there for 25 years, everyone goes, oh, brilliant, city centre, vibrant, let's go and live in the city centre, let's build some flats next door, and then fucking complain about the noise. That happens all the time. That happened to us at Rock City. We had to put a whole new roof on Rock City because of that, which cost us a fortune. But the agents of change.
You don't move next to the airport and then yell that it's loud because planes are taking off.
Yeah, exactly.
It was there first.
And you moved next to the airport so you can get on a plane quickly. So great, you're next door to a club and you can see live music very easily, so don't moan about it. What I always want to do is, if they moan about the noise, send security around and say, oh, it's £15 to listen to that tonight. Oh, that doesn't work, unfortunately. However, Agents of Change is some legislation which very much influenced by the Music Venues Trust and the good work they do, which basically negates that. Says, like, look, if the club's there first, the club was there first. If you're building some flats, you have to triple glaze them, you have to do what you do. Say, you're the change, so it's your problem. It's not the thing that was there already's problem. That's something we supported. Agents of Chaos, I like that, though. Maybe we'll replace Have a Fucking Great Time.
So, London, Bristol, Nottingham, and now you're coming to Birmingham.
Yep, we have some premises. We haven't developed it yet because we want to have the time and focus to be able to do that properly. But it's going to happen, chances are, next year. As we say, we're not a huge company. We're a significant company, but we don't want to just open 20 venues and make them all shit. If we do something, it's got to be great.
It's got to hit.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to love every one of our venues.
Well, you guys do business in Manchester at some point. That's going to be on the horizon, right?
Well, Manchester's interesting. We do a lot of business there. We've got people based there. We do actually have a relationship with Manchester Cathedral, which is the actual working cathedral.
That's amazing.
Where we put shows in there. So we've had, I don't know, Lowe and all sorts of people. And then we also helped Elbow play there and a whole bunch of stuff. So we sort of have a venue in Manchester, although it's a very specific one. But what we don't do is we're not running out to open 20 new venues just to please the shareholders or please the sponsors. You know, if it's the right place of the right size, we think we can deliver something great, then we'll do it. But if we can't, we won't. Good example is Thekla in Bristol is a boat. It's on the tourist maps of Bristol. It's a very legendary place. Up until we had to take it away for conservation, but up until recently had a Banksy on the side of it. You know, it's not just some venue that could be anywhere.
Did you say there's a Banksy on it?
Yeah.
Like a real one? That's awesome.
Yeah.
How'd that come about?
He painted it on there years ago. It's called the Grim Reaper. It's a Grim Reaper in a rowing boat because it's on the waterline, which is why eventually we had to take it away. I mean, it's in a museum just down the road.
Okay, so you protected it.
Well, because it was just literally rotting away. It was disappearing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's my point is we want our venues to be somewhere where the artists and the fans feel is unique and not just somewhere where, you know, it's not Hello Cleveland, like the Spinal Tap kind of thing. It's very individual.
Now, you guys also have a footprint in the festival space.
Yeah. I mean, our main things are Metropolitan Festivals. So we're arguably the largest promoter of Metropolitan Festivals in the UK. So we have a thing called Dot to Dot Festival, which has been going for 14 years now, which is I guess, you know, you would relate it to South by Southwest or those kinds of things, although it's much smaller. But we do it one day in 3 cities, Manchester, Bristol, Nottingham, and it's really about discovery of new music. The idea of it is industry are very welcome, but real people can come along and see new artists on the way up. It's a great example. A couple of years ago, we heard a song called Bruisers by this Scottish singer. We thought, bloody hell, that's great. And even at quite short notice, we contacted them and said, do you want to come and play Dot to Dot? And he played, and he's absolutely astounding. I remember watching him going like, holy shit, this guy's got something special going on. And that guy's Lewis Capaldi, who just sold out for me. He sold out Bristol Academy and Nottingham Rock City in, well, minutes, as fast as we could sell the tickets, basically. So that's what Dot to Dot's all about, really. It's about discovery, new artists. And I always kind of say Dot to Dot Festival, every year's lineup is the shittest one ever, because you look at the lineup and go like, who are all these people?
And then 10 years from now, it's like, oh my God, all those bands played on that shit.
Like the XX played for 50 quid, you know. Ed Sheeran played when he was on his way up. Mumford & Sons, all sorts of people like that, and several, like XX and Lewis Capaldi, very, very small shows. So
you can say you saw them first if you just buy a ticket to this festival.
Yeah, that's the idea, and it's a way to develop artists and bring things through. So we have that. We have one called Mirrors, which is in London, which is another tastemaker festival, a bit more hipster, if I can use that word. I'm sure the guy in our office who brought it would probably object to that, but anyway. Then we do a dance music-based one as well. So we do quite a few of those. And then we also have a family-friendly outdoor festival that we do in Nottingham as well, called Splendor.
Splendor, I like that. Do you have any advice for any of the people coming up in the business on how to have career longevity? I mean, not everybody has like the 10 successful years of doing it the way you guys have, so.
Can I say don't be a cunt?
You say whatever you want, sir. You mean it in the very British way, right?
Yeah. I just think find your own way. We're all different. The folks in our office, even where we're into similar music, we've got different styles. We work, I have certain agents I'm very, very close with. I have other agents I don't work with at all, but then other guys in the office work with. So, find your own way, find what works for you in your style.
Who you click with, huh?
Yeah.
You want to shout out some of those agents that you work closely with that have been super supportive of you?
I can give a few. Tom Lawrence at UTA in Malmar. Neil O'Brien at Neil O'Brien Entertainment. Work a lot with him. All the guys at Free Trade. Paul Boswell, James Alderman, and the other guys coming through there as well. Ed Thompson and David Hughes and all that lot. There's loads. We work with tons of different people.
Right, because you guys are programming a lot.
Guys at CAA. Right. Obviously, Ed Sheeran's with John Ollier at CAA. We work with a lot, but also Paul Wilson and all the guys, folks there really as well. So,
did you ever think booking clubs you'd wind up doing stadiums and festivals?
I started in 1991 just promoting shows independently for kicks in Nottingham. I didn't start full-time in business till 2002. I was just doing it. I had a day job in IT. I was just doing shows for
the hell
kicks.
of it.
Yeah. It's a long way from that to doing what we're doing now.
From point A to where you are now is just incredible.
Thank you. But it's certainly DHP family. It's not about me. I'm one of the directors of Live. The other one, Dan Elam, is one who works with Ed. There's all the people in the office. We've got Josh and Dan Roberts and Scott O'Neill, who just delivered 2 incredible shows with Massive Attack in outdoor, semi-outdoor in a temporary structure, outdoor in Bristol at the weekend to 28,000 people. Scott did that. There's Amy and Joe who are looking for a lot of the venue stuff, Matthew as well. And then the whole team of ticketing, marketing, and really most of all, I guess George, who's my boss who owns a company, who lets us all do this stuff.
How many people at DHP Family? How many employees?
Well, it's actually quite a lot because we've got all the venues. So I think it's over 500 in total.
Wow, including the bar staffs and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, Anton, for making time and talking to us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Anton is a mover and a shaker in the UK music scene, someone to keep an eye on. Very exciting stuff going on with him. You notice, Luke, there is a shitload of fucking promoters in the UK? A lot of promoters.
I think there are a lot of promoters in the U.S. as well, too. It's a big country.
Yeah, but how many people are promoting in any given market? But in London proper, it's just like, damn, dude, there's like 60 people doing shows, it seems. It's a very competitive thing. But you're right, it's competitive here, too.
Hi, it's Kira Finkenberg. I'm the marketing and ticketing guru for Andy Hewitt and Bill Silva Presents. I'm on Promoter 101.
Do you want to write us and tell us something? Well, now you can. There's an email address dedicated to just you people that would like to talk to me and Luke. Steiny, Steiny, at Promoter101. 101's not spelled out. We use the actual numbers, 101.net. That's Steiny at Promoter101.net. Feel free to tell us anything on your mind. Don't worry about offending me. Maybe worry about offending Luke, but, we're not made out of glass.
Some days we are, Dan. Some days we are.
Yeah, we can get offended pretty easily.
Episode 143 in the bag. Thanks so much to DHP families, Anton Lockwood and Owen Locke from Locke & Company. Try some of the rye. It's great stuff. We're not getting paid to say that. I swear to God, we're going to be back on Monday, episode 144, coming at you next Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. in the East.
Hey, we are going to be joined next episode with a very special guest as our London sessions continue. Coda's Nick Matthews. This is one to tune in and watch for.
Until then, we're wishing you a weekend full of sold-out shows. Cheers.
Call your mother.
John Pleater, Vice President of ICM Partners. This is Promoter